Oh, massive hill. Not the best place to do the intro, but let's give it a go. So if you struggle with aches and pains after being on the bike for a little while, it might be that you're not mobile or flexible enough to get in an adequate position on the bike. This hill's doing me in. So today, at least once I've done this bloody hill and gotten back home, I want to go through 3 stretches every cyclist should be doing. Let's get home.
1 hour later.
There we go, relaxed, recovered, coffee on the go. So these 3 exercises are going to help lengthen those muscle groups that will kind of stop us getting into a good position on the bike. And as I said, if these muscle groups are tight, it's going to potentially lead to aches and pains when we're out on the road in things like our lower back and our knees, all areas we commonly struggle with. And these muscle groups are also the ones that commonly get tight from being sat at a desk all day too. So bang for your buck really. And as a lot of us go from the desk to then going on the bike when we ride during the weeks anyway, it's even more important that these muscles are loose so we can get in that good position and reduce those risks of aches and pains. So what are the 3 exercises? Well, let me finish this. I'll head to the garage gym. Let's go through them. Okay, so here we are. Stretch number 1, the basic hamstring stretch. Since the hamstrings are going to be the muscle group which can prevent us from coming over forward in this position so we can get in the nice sexy position we all want on the bike. What happens if they're not necessarily too flexible is that when we get on the bike and we start leaning forwards to the handlebars on the hoods or definitely the drops, what happens is as we try to lean further forward, the hamstrings pull down on the back of the hips, therefore rounding the lower back, potentially causing some lower back pain and also potentially some pain further down the chain at the knees and ankles as well. So all we need to do for this one, we are going to jazz it up a little bit because you've probably seen the basic one done a million times. But you're going to go back leg bent, front leg straight, chest up nice and tall, leaning over the front leg like so, toes towards the ceiling, and you should feel a nice stretch down the front of this, no, down the back even, of this front leg here. To jazz it up a little bit, we're going to do something called PNF stretching, which stands for, let me try and get this, proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. Try and say that a couple of times quickly. But all that means is after 30 seconds of holding the stretch as normal, we're going to drive our heel into the floor for 6 seconds, then relax and try and relax into the stretch even more. Then we're going to do the same thing again, drive the heel into the floor for a further 6 seconds, and we do that 3 times round. So 30 seconds stretch, then 6 seconds driving the heel, 6 seconds relaxing, 3 times, and you should find each time you relax into the stretch after the pushing your heel down, you should be able to get further and further. An important thing to note as well is that I'm not trying to reach down as far as I possibly can. Like you can see my back's rounding and I'm just not feeling it in the hamstring as much. You want to make sure the chest is up nice and tall. It doesn't matter how far you can reach, it's about feeling it as much as possible in the back of that front leg. So doing that nice simple hamstring stretch around about 3 times a week, at least after every bike ride if you can, is really going to help loosen off those hamstrings and get you into that position that you want on the bike. Okay, stretch number 2 is actually a continuation from the first one, and it's actually not necessarily just a stretch but also a strengthening exercise as well. Very similar to the first one, this is going to work on the hamstrings, but sometimes the hamstrings are tight not because that they're actually tight but because they're weak. Sometimes hamstring mobility and mobility in general, muscles can sometimes be tightened up because they're weak, and it's the body's way of protecting those muscles from being stretched too far. So if you can strengthen a muscle as well as stretch it, it means you're going to be more likely to be able to relax it and get into the positions that you want with reduced risk of injury. So this is called the Romanian deadlift. Good lead on from the hamstring stretch, and all you're going to do for this one is you're going to keep the knees slightly bent, feet shoulder width apart. You're going to have a dumbbell if you've got a gym membership, or just something heavy in front of you. You can even use a bar. Knees slightly bent, chest up nice and tall, just as with the hamstring stretch, and you're going to push your bum back, keeping the knees where they are, coming down as far as you can, again, so you can feel that nice stretch in the back of the hamstrings, and then coming back up, squeezing your bum out the top. So the Romanian deadlift, once a week is probably enough, especially if you haven't done it before. You'll definitely be sore after it. You want to start with a weight that you can maintain good form with. You want to be around 8 to 10 repetitions, and like I said, do that once a week. Once you can manage any given weight for 8 to 10 repetitions, then you want to start to increase the weight a little bit, but slow and steady wins the race. 3 sets is also a good place to start, so probably 3 sets of 8 to 10 reps with 60 seconds rest at least between each set. Once a week, should be on to a win. For the final stretch, we're going to go for a hip flexor stretch. So the hip flexors are a muscle which come from the front of the hip and attach, well, one of the muscles actually attaches below the knee. So if these are tight, and they probably will be, especially if you're sat at a desk all day, that's going to pull down when you're on the bike at the front of the hip, which means when again you're trying to lean over, it's going to potentially arch that lower back, which again could potentially lead to pain at the lower back itself, could mean you're compensating in your upper back, so hunching over even more on the bike, and could also lead to problems further down the chain at the knees or ankles as well. So as well as the hamstrings, a super important muscle to stretch, especially if you're hopping on the bike after a day at work. So really basic hip flexor stretch, I've actually shown this one in one of my other videos, is like so. Knee at 90 degrees at the back, front knee at 90 degrees, foot planted on the floor, on the toes at the back. And all we're doing for this one is pushing forwards, making sure our hips stay level. Hips are like a bucket of water, so we don't want the water to fall out the front. That's just arching my lower back and causing even more pain there. We're wanting to squeeze your glutes, squeeze your core, make sure your hips stay level. And again, it's not a competition about how far you can go. I can go all the way down here, but my lower back is now arched, which is not what we're looking for. Once you get used to that one and you're not feeling it too much, you can actually make it harder using a variation called the couch stretch, which is where you elevate your back foot on something, whatever it is. It's called a couch stretch, so you could do it on your couch in your living room. You might need to put something under your knee though, but all you're doing, back foot elevated, same position again, looking to feel it down the back or the front of that back leg. With the hip flexor stretch, you could hold it for between 30 to 60 seconds. Again, make sure you do both sides, and doing that at least 3 times a week if possible, if not at least after every bike ride, definitely stand you in good stead. So hopefully you found all those stretches useful. Do let me know what you thought down in the comments below, and let me know your favourite stretch as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe, ride strong, and I'll catch you in next week's video. See you later.